Hello friends, welcome back to TechGetter Official. In this video, we're diving into Windows 11. Windows 11 was released to the public almost 4 years ago, and one of the most noticeable changes compared to previous Windows versions was the completely redesigned Start menu. When Windows 11 first launched, this new Start menu became a huge talking point among users. But interestingly, over the past 4 years, Microsoft hasn't made any major visual or functional changes. Just a few small tweaks, settings adjustments, and minor refinements. That's finally changing. At the time of recording, Microsoft has begun rolling out a brand new Start menu redesign for Windows 11, specifically for versions 24H2 and the upcoming 25H2, delivered via a Windows update. So in today's video, we'll review the new Start menu, compare it with the old one, and finally, I'll share my honest personal opinion. But first, let's take a closer look at the old Windows 11 Start menu, the one most of us have been using for years. Old Windows 11 Start menu overview. Alright, so let's open the Start menu. To make things easy, I'll explain this from top to bottom. Search bar. At the top, we have the search bar. This allows you to search applications, settings, photos, and even web results. You can also filter results by categories like apps, documents, web, and settings. When you click on a result, Windows shows extra options like Open, Open File Location, Pin to Start, Pin to Taskbar. This part works pretty well and hasn't changed much. Pinned Apps section. Below the search bar, we have the Pinned Apps section. This is where you can pin your most used applications for quick access. You can pin apps from the All Apps list, rearrange them, create folders by dragging apps on top of each other, rename folders, and remove apps anytime. This section is very useful for daily productivity. All Apps button. On the top right side of Pinned Apps, we have the All Apps button. This shows almost all installed applications, sorted alphabetically. From here, you can right-click any app and pin it to the Start menu. Recommended section. Below Pinned Apps is the Recommended section. This shows recently opened files, recently used apps, suggested content from Windows. Now, this section is customizable, but here's the downside. You cannot completely remove it. Even if you turn everything off, the empty section still stays. User and power options. At the bottom, left side, user account info and sign out option. Right side, power options like sleep, restart, shutdown. Start menu settings. In Start settings, you can choose more pins or more recommendations, adjust how many rows appear, enable or disable recommended items, add system folders like File Explorer, Documents, Settings, Downloads. These shortcuts always stay visible, which is actually a very underrated feature. Overall, the old Start menu is simple, clean, and familiar. Now let's take a closer look at the new Windows 11 Start menu, focusing on the key differences from the older version. At first glance, some elements remain familiar. The search bar is still at the top, the Pinned Apps section is still present, and the Recommended section appears by default. However, the overall design has been significantly updated. The first thing you'll notice is the larger, more scalable design. The Start menu now automatically adjusts based on screen resolution and display scaling, which means its layout can change depending on the monitor you're using. This allows it to adapt dynamically to different devices, but it can also feel inconsistent when switching between displays. One major change is the All Apps section, which has been moved to the bottom of the Start menu instead of being accessed through a separate button. This new All Apps area offers 3 different viewing options. The first is Category View, where apps are automatically grouped into categories such as productivity, games, utilities, and more. This categorization appears to be AI-driven, though users cannot rename or modify the categories. The second option is Grid View, which displays apps in a grid layout similar to a mobile app drawer, making it easier to navigate visually. The third is List View, which is reminiscent of the classic All Apps list from previous Windows versions. There are some limitations to the Pinned Apps section in the new Start menu. Pinned apps are now restricted to 2 rows, so if you add more apps, you need to click Show All to view the additional items. While this keeps the interface compact, it can be inconvenient for users who rely on having all frequently used apps visible at a glance. On the other hand, a significant improvement is that the recommended section can now be completely removed. Through Start settings, you can turn off all recommended toggles, and the section disappears entirely. Even better, if you unpin all apps from the Pinned Apps section, that section also disappears, leaving a clean, app-only Start menu. This provides a minimalist layout that is ideal for users who prefer a less cluttered interface. Overall, the new Start menu introduces a more modern, scalable, and customizable design, with multiple ways to view apps and the ability to remove unwanted sections. However, some of these changes, such as the limited pinned rows and the dynamic scaling behavior, may take some getting used to, especially for long-time Windows users who appreciated the clarity and structure of the old Start menu. These are purely my personal thoughts, but I've actually liked Windows 11 since day one, which I realize might be an unpopular opinion. Compared to Windows 10, Windows 11 emphasizes simplicity, particularly for users who aren't very tech-savvy. However, I'm not a big fan of the new Start menu. What I appreciated about the old Start menu was how much it resembled Windows 7. Clearly defined sections, a pinned apps area, a separate all apps list, and easily accessible system shortcuts. Everything was organized, intuitive, and easy on the eyes. In contrast, the new Start menu feels more cluttered, visually overwhelming, and less consistent. All items are placed in a single scrolling menu, which can feel crowded and tiring, especially if you have many apps. Another aspect I personally dislike is the scaling behavior. When connecting to monitors with different resolutions, the Start menu layout keeps changing, which can be frustrating and disorienting. Adding to this, there are significant rollout and update concerns. This new Start menu is being delivered through a normal, non-security Windows update rather than a major feature update. Even worse, Microsoft is using a gradual rollout process, meaning some users receive it immediately, while others may have to wait, with no clear timeline provided. For such a central feature of Windows 11, this approach feels poorly communicated and leaves users unsure about when or if they will see the update. The rollout of the new Windows 11 Start menu has been somewhat inconsistent, with some users receiving it immediately while others haven't, and no clear timeline has been provided for a full release. For such a core feature of the operating system, this approach feels inadequate. It should have been clearly announced and ideally introduced as part of a major Windows update, rather than being gradually pushed through routine updates. Windows 11 was originally designed to provide consistency, simplicity, and a smooth user experience, but this new Start menu, in its current form, feels like a step backward, especially for users who appreciated the clarity and organization of the previous design. That wraps up today's video. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you prefer the new Start menu or the old one? If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to TechGetter Official for more tech-related content and updates. Thank you for watching.